Joey Barton guilty over grossly offensive ex-posts. We're getting lots and lots of people arrested up and down the country over section 127, category 2 of the 2003 Communications Act, because it's the same law I was charged under. Because the instant you see the term grossly offensive, it's safe to assume that it's section 127 they've been arrested under. I think we're on 30 a day, 30 people a day are being questioned or arrested under that law. What a wonderful country that we live in. Former footballer Joey Barton has been found guilty of 6 counts of sending grossly offensive social media posts aimed at broadcaster Jeremy Vine and television pundits Lucy Ward and Eni Aluko. I don't know the last two, but Jeremy Vine is a little bit of a prick. Barton, 43, compared Aluko and Ward to the serial killer couple Fred and Rose West. That could be a Mad Lad video, actually. And called Vine a bike nonce. A bike nonce in posts sent between January and March 2024. Jurors at the Liverpool Crown Court accepted the prosecution's argument that Barton from Huyton, Merseyside, had crossed the line between free speech and a crime because he called them names and made fun of them. You're not allowed to make fun of leftists because they will use state violence to come after you. This is what they do, these freedom-loving people that are against fascism. But they cleared the ex-Manchester City and Newcastle player of 6 other counts of sending a grossly offensive electronic communication with intent to cause distress or anxiety. Judge Andrew Menery KC warned Barton about wearing a scarf printed with a British flag in the dock as a stunt, and told the former footballer's legal team he would not be permitted to wear it when he is sentenced on 8th December. Can't have the British flag in a British courtroom in Britain. Not allowed. That's not allowed at all. You're not allowed to like your flag or your country. That's illegal now. You're not allowed to do that. Barton was reminded his bail conditions prohibit him from mentioning his 3 victims in any way before that hearing. During his trial, Barton argued that he was the victim of a political prosecution and that his comments aimed at football pundits Aluko and Ward were simply dark and stupid humour. He said he had been trying to make a serious point in a provocative way. So basically, if like making fun of people is grossly offensive, then pretty much every single person in this country should be in jail. If making fun of people is like grossly offensive and therefore illegal, everyone's going to jail. We're all in jail. We're all prisoners now. Let's just build a big fence around the outside of Britain and turn it into a massive open jail. Right? That's the problem with stuff like this. Literally everybody is guilty of it. Right? Have you ever said something shitty about some celebrity or footballer or just any kind of TV personality whatsoever? Congratulations, you've broken the law. This is why Section 127 needs bloody scrapped. Barton, who has 2.7 million followers on X, also claimed his posts about Vine were merely crude banter, and that in using the phrase bike nonce, he had never intended to imply the radio presenter was a paedophile. Well, the problem, the problem with that is a lot of the Yanks don't know this, but not well. Up here in Scotland, we call them beasts. That's why we call them beasts. Yeah. So if you're like a woman basher, a child rapist, child murderer, paedophile, blah blah blah, any of those things, you're a beast in Scottish prisons. That's why when you get guys lifting weights going, I'm a fucking beast, everyone's kind of like, my guy. But down in England, it's called nonce. Because nonce is what used to be written on the door of their cells because it meant not on normal courtyard exercise. Not on normal courtyard exercise because basically saying don't put this guy out into the don't put this guy out into gen pop, otherwise they'll fucking kill him, right? So that's where the word nonce comes from, right? So when you call someone a nonce, you are kind of calling them a paedophile. That's the problem. Jurors cleared Barton on a charge relating to a post containing a mock apology to Aluko for comparing her to Rose West. That post went on to say she's clearly in the Joseph Stalin Pol Pot category. Basically, I've made these accusations against many people many times before. Yeah, if you're like a little authoritarian that likes to control what people can and cannot say, I think it's very fair to compare you to those people. Like, that's the thing is it grossly offensive if it's factual? I mean, if someone is in fact acting like Stalin, I mean, especially if they've went to the police and they're going to use state violence to punish you for something that you've said, something that Stalin did a lot, even when people didn't say that stuff, I think that's a fair comparison. I think it's a fair comparison. But no, it's grossly offensive. Don't offend the authoritarians. don't offend them. It makes them very upset. Makes them so upset they're going to send the police around to your fucking door. She's murdered hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of football fans' ears in the last few years. This is just mockery. You can't make fun of celebrities anymore. Then why live? Why live? I love making fun of celebrities. I love doing that. People make fun of me. I'm not a celebrity, right? But people make fun of me all the fucking time. All the fucking time online. And it's like the vast majority of it's banter. Like my own audience, like we banter back and forth. Everybody makes fun of me. Everybody was making fun of me for the Asian girlfriend thing. And I do have to come clean about that. She's not Asian. She's not Asian in any way at all. The joke was just too good not to make. That was the problem. And I've already cleared it up and said she's actually something much, much worse. She's Canadian. But anyway. But also, I know a lot of guys in the audience that watch me are rather very much of the far right persuasion, shall we say. You're all gonna love her. But anyway, however, she's she said some things that's made me go, we are in public. But anyway, however, the jury did convict Barton over a post in which he said ITV pundit Aluko was only there to tick boxes. There we go. All off the back of the Black Lives Matter George Floyd nonsense, he added. Barton was cleared of writing that Ward and DeLuco were the Fred and Rose West of football commentary after an FA Cup tie in January 2024 between Crystal Palace and Everton. But the former Fleetwood and Bristol Rovers manager was convicted of a count relating to another post in which he superimposed their faces on a photograph of the serial killers. You can't even Photoshop people into funny stuff anymore. Like getting convicted of that. That is the gayest shit. He was also convicted over posts suggesting Vine had visited Epstein Island. A reference to the paedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, and one saying, if you see this fella by a primary school, call 999. Anyway, in his closing speech to the jury of 7 men and 5 women, prosecutor Peter Wright Casey said Barton had crossed the line by some considerable margin beyond what is tolerable in society. And what is tolerable in society? Well, that's up to the judges. Those old guys with boomer humor who probably don't even laugh at jokes. Have you ever noticed? Have you ever known like a fun, cookie, wacky, hilarious judge? No, you don't. No, you don't. They get really, they're so up their own arse, right? They get fucking furious all the time over fucking anything. Like, for example, the word cunt, right? I mean, okay, it's got different connotations in Scotland, right? You've heard, oh, he's a sound cunt. You're not calling him a cunt. You're saying he's a sound cunt. It's very, very different, right? But basically, if you call someone a cunt, like, online, you're going to get dragged in front of a court and saying that's grossly offensive, and good luck convincing some fucking 64-year-old boomer judge that the word cunt isn't grossly offensive, right? Basically, we're all going to jail. See, under the way the Section 127 Act works, where can't make funny photoshops, can't make fun of celebrities, can't poke fun at people, can't make fun of people, we're all going to jail. We're all going to jail. It's such a wide-reaching law that literally every single person in this country is guilty of. All of us are. That's the problem. That's why the law has to fucking go. Can't even make fun of celebrities anymore. Uh, he said that Barton was not the victim here and called the footballer a little bully who takes pleasure in sitting there with his phone in his hand and then posting these slurs. As far as I'm aware, he didn't post any slurs. You've just lied that, and because that's in your closing statement, that's what's going to be visible to the public. And judges' closing statements are very carefully crafted. They did the same thing to me. They tried to say that we didn't make any arguments at all against freedom of speech, even though the judge acknowledged that we couldn't, because the prosecution was trying to say about me that I was directly meaning the things that I said. Right, I wasn't joking, I meant it. So we had to argue that I didn't mean it, and we literally never got around to making arguments for free speech, because the prosecution very cleverly, I'll give them that, blocked us from doing that. And even though the judge acknowledged that during the trial, he made sure in his closing statement that one that would be on the fucking judiciary website and everything that would be public for the press to report on. He never made any defense for freedom of speech, right? It's because we couldn't. Prosecution blocked us from it. But they knew that, and they wrote that anyway, because judges' closing statements are very carefully crafted. So he says slurs, so the press are going to go, oh, I said slurs. We've just seen from the article, he said no slurs whatsoever. Didn't say a single slur. Not one. But that's in the closing statement, and that's what's going to be put into the media. Grossly offensive. Directing the jury, Judge Menery explained that the term grossly offensive in the charges required a high bar for conviction. No, it does not. No, it does not in any way whatsoever. That is a complete lie. The judge just lied. The judge absolutely just lied there. No, it does not have a high bar. It's supposed to stand against the test of the reasonable man. Would a reasonable man find these things grossly offensive? At which point you're supposed to bring in someone to do a test on them, especially if it's the bereaved, not the bereaved, the aggrieved, like the person that you said the mean things to test whether or not they're a reasonable man. From what I know about Jeremy Vine, he is not a reasonable man, and that should have been put up to challenge in court. And one of the biggest witnesses in my trial was Ephraim Borowski, and he was brought in as the reasonable man test. The Jew that's in charge of the Scottish Council of Jews. Oh, I'm sure that person's very, very down to clown when it comes to anti-Semitic jokes. Right, this was the guy that basically says that basically me teaching my dog a trick was animal abuse. Right, yeah, that sounds very reasonable, doesn't it? Well, we should apply the reasonable man test to see if he's a reasonable man. Nope, we can't. The judge blocked that. So basically, he was used as an example of the reasonable man test, but we weren't allowed to establish whether or not he was a reasonable man. Right, yeah. See that high bar for conviction? Dog shit. That judge just lied. He either is lying or he has no idea how the law actually works and he's no business being a judge and he should be fired immediately. But anyway, the criminal law is not here to punish bad manners, sharp humour, or unpopular opinions, he said. That's a lie. That is a lie. That is a complete direct lie. Bad manners, like calling someone a cheeky name or something like that on Twitter, under Section 127, that's illegal. Sharp humour, like comparing someone to Fred West and stuff like that, you've just said there that that's illegal. He's just been convicted of sharp humour. Unpopular opinions, I know people who are literally, have been charged by the police and are literally in prevent for things that they've said against migrants. Opinions on migrants. They're not saying kill them all and everything like that. They say that in private. Right? No, they've just said we should deport all of them immediately, every single one. And they are now in prevent and they've been charged before for saying that. So that is a lie. The judge has just lied. The law only intervenes when the content is of such an extreme, degrading or dehumanizing character that society as a whole would say that goes too far. Society as a whole is actually saying that the jokes that he made were fine. The overwhelming majority of people are saying that the jokes that he made are a little bit cheeky, a little bit offensive, sure, whatever, but they're saying they're fine. Nobody was calling for him to be arrested. The three people he made the jokes about were probably calling for it. Most likely Jeremy Vine. Right? Like, that's a complete joke. Right? The overwhelming majority of people do not care about this. They probably looked at the tweets and thought, right, that's quite funny. Right, but see when you say society as a whole, shut up. That's not the case. That is not the case at all. It crosses the line of what we can tolerate. Barton was released on bail and Judge Menery ordered a pre-sentence report to be prepared. The judge also warned him it would be very foolish to post anything on social media about the case before then. This is another trick that the courts are now doing. They are now realising that they're getting a lot of blowback, a lot of flack for essentially mass violation of human rights. They're realizing that it looks really bad, so they're blocking people from talking about their case online. Right? Do not tell on us. That's what they're saying. Whenever they say don't post about your trial on social media or your charges or anything like that, they're basically saying don't tell on us. Do not gather a fleet of supporters that are going to support you during this because we want to violate your human rights unimpeded. We get really, really annoyed when people throw a fucking spanner in the works when we're trying to violate human rights. Right? It should be easy for us to violate human rights, and you're making it really hard. You're making it really hard, and we're getting upset. Just let us be authoritarians, man. Stop telling on us. Senior Crown Prosecutor Callum Bryce of CPS Mersey Cheshire said Barton had subjected three public figures to offences of malicious communications. In his evidence before the court, Barton said that in some of his messages he was trying to make a serious point in a provocative way, and that in others he was simply joking, he said. The finding of the jury confirmed that his conduct had gone beyond any joke, and his messages were grossly offensive with the purpose of causing anxiety and distress to his victims. Well, I mean, mostly whenever I make fun of people, I'm not trying to cause anxiety or distress, I'm trying to be funny. Anxiety or distress is just an unfortunate byproduct of it. I'm trying to make people laugh, right? And I'll make fun of someone if I feel they've really earned it. But still, this is all a complete joke. The judge is an absolute fucking liar. He completely lied about how the law actually even works, and he's just clueless about it, or he's, implicitly lying. But basically, Section 127 has got to fucking go.